Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name's Stephen Harvey. It's great to have you in today on a Friday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How you doing today on this Friday?
Happy Friday. I'm doing good. Ready to roll.
Got a good show planned for you today. We're going to recap last night's game and everything that had to do with the Tua situation and all the updates that are coming from that thus far. We're also going to analyze the game, and that's actually what we're going to start off with. And also, I'm ready to bounce back in my Harvey Hot Hand, which went 1-4 last week. But it's going to be a redemption week. I made these picks back on Wednesday. I fell in love with them. The matchups look great for week 2. We're going to get into that later on in the show. But let's jump into last night's game and the analysis of last night's game, because the Bills absolutely dominated the Miami Dolphins once again. Now this moves the Bills to 12-1 against the Dolphins in the previous 13 meetings. And the Bills were all over the place. Defensively, shutting down Tyreek Hill. Offensively, James Cook running all over the field on the Miami Dolphins defense. I want to know, though, what was your reaction to Buffalo absolutely sweeping and taking care of the Miami Dolphins last night?
I made the mistake of picking the Dolphins. I should have known better. I mean, the Bills have dominated them for so long. They're 12-2 against them, and since Josh Allen started playing against them, and the Bills show that the AFC East division goes through Buffalo. They're 20-5 in the division since 2020, and they've won 2 weeks in a row now, so 2-0. They may be on the way to winning the division again. I picked the Jets to win it, but the way they played last week, my God, looks like same old Jets. So looks like Buffalo is kind of back in control. They made a statement last night. James Cook, 3 TDs, 2 interceptions by Janmarius Ingram. Nice to see somebody besides Josh Allen scoring a rushing TD with Cook scoring a couple there on the ground. Allen suffered a left-hand injury from rushing TD last week, so I think they didn't really want him running the ball that much this time. He only had 2 carries for 2 yards, so I think that they want him to take it easy back there and not hurt himself too much this early in the season. Cook scored on the first drive of the game after Ingram's interception on a 17-yard pass from Allen. Then he had a 1-yard rushing score after Ty Johnson caught a beautiful pass from Allen, who was scrambling on the right-hand side. That was the biggest play of the game for Allen, who really was pretty pedestrian on his passing, right? He was 13 for 19 for 139 yards and 1 TD. That's unlike Josh Allen. They're favoring the run this time around. I think they think their wide receiver corps maybe not so great. They want to focus on the run and bring those guys along slowly. So Cook scored on that first drive of the game, and then they had the 2-yard, the second 1-yard rushing score and his second TD. Then he had a 49-yard run. He was untouched all the way to the end zone by Miami. The Bills were up 24-7. It was over. Cook had 11 rushes for 78 yards, 1 reception. Joe Brady's run first. That's what it looks like, and it seems to work pretty well. It didn't work so well last week in the first half. They got down 17-3. But yesterday they were hot. They were the first half of the game. They were killing the Dolphins. The Bills, they've got quite a few new players, the Bills, but it shows they can score points. The surprise performance for me in the game was Ingram, who would have been a scratch if Dwayne Smoot wasn't injured last week. He played in the dime package after Javon Johnson was injured his forearm. Ingram was undrafted from the University of Buffalo, interestingly enough. He's been on the practice squad player for the last 2 seasons. Looks like he'll get more playing time the way he played last night. One of his interceptions was a pick six. I think the pivotal play when the Bills were up 10-7 is when Allen threw that 33-yard pass on the run to Ty Johnson to the 1-yard line. That was a great play. And I mentioned the Bills are 20-5 against the Dolphins. Against the division since 2020. Allen's record against the Dolphins, again, 12-2. 5th straight win over the Dolphins. Defense looks good against the pass. Tua 0 for 4 on passes of 15 yards, 2 of 8 on passes of 10 yards. And last week, Kyler Murray was 0 of 6 on 10-yard throws. So even though they lost some people on defense in the back and the safeties and cornerbacks last year, they seem to have made up for it nicely and are playing well.
Absolutely. I think right now, I think a lot of people, including maybe us, have maybe undervalued and sold all of our stock on the Bills way too early. Could it be that when we took a look at their losses, that they were aging players, and now they went from being very good on the Bills to now just being okay elsewhere? Maybe that's what we're looking. Aging players, aging good players on the Bills who just became aging players at all. But there are two parts to this. There's the Bills side, and then there's the Dolphins side, because I do think both need to be highlighted. The first one would be, what the hell are the Dolphins doing on defense? You couldn't stop James Cook. You couldn't bring Josh Allen down. You could not pressure him enough to make him make mistakes. This is a guy who, since coming into the league, has the most interceptions. He is one of, or at least has the most turnovers. Josh Allen is turnover prone. He's the modern-day Brett Favre, and the Dolphins could do nothing to slow him down. There was one fumbled snap on a 3rd and 1 with about 2:10 left in the first quarter, but Josh Allen, under this new Joe Brady scheme, has been incredible. And yes, while it may not look like the Josh Allen of old underneath Ken Dorsey, I do think this is a Buffalo Bills team, a new Buffalo Bills team, and this is the new Josh Allen. Because since Ken Dorsey got fired and Joe Brady came in as the OC, the Bills are 9-2, including the playoffs. But just look at the change of how the offense is run. Rush percentage since Joe Brady became the offense coordinator, 52.3%. Rushes per game, 35.5. Both of those are first within that time frame. Rushing yards per game, nearly 150. That's third. Rushing touchdowns, 17. That's third. And that also includes the playoffs as well. So this is a new Buffalo Bills team that's not going Superman Josh Allen, which honestly may be the best thing for him because it reduces the chance of having turnovers, just like with Dak Prescott. If Dak throws it 35 or more times, the chances he's going to perform poorly, his turnovers are going to increase, and the team may end up losing is significantly higher than if you could actually have some sort of a run game. That's why this year it may look a little bit different than previous Cowboy years, because you have Rico Dowdle and Ezekiel Elliott and now Dalvin Cook as the Cowboys running backs. But the Bills capitalized on defense. That's really where this game showed itself, that the Bills' defense is better than what we thought it was, especially losing Matt Milano literally right before the season started, because guess what? Out of their 24 points at halftime, 17 of those came off 2 interceptions and a turnover on downs. So the Bills were able to turn turnovers into touchdowns, which is the most effective way of playing defense, keeping the other team out of the end zone, which, by the way, they did a pretty good job at that in this game. They also shut down Tyreek Hill. I think the number for Tyreek Hill was 3 catches for 24 yards on 6 targets. And I think basically every single one of those catches was some sort of dink and dunk straight to him. No deep shots. They took the deep shot away. Jalen Waddle, largely ineffective. The Dolphins were focusing heavy on the run. They're a big motion team. That's their big thing. But switching to the Miami Dolphins side, and we are going to talk about Tua and his concussion in the very next topic, but when it comes to performance, Tua was not good. He just wasn't. His interceptions, yes, the first one you might, and we're going to bring it up right now. The first one may not be his fault, but it was actually thrown backwards. So the chance that it's broken up actually is pretty high. This second one is a complete overthrow to Robbie Chosen. He's changed his name 3 times. I think it's Robbie Chosen this time around. That's an overthrow. That's way over his head. And this one, he tried to get it out of bounds, and instead, number 46, I believe, was that Benford? No, it's not Benford. That might be, what's his name? That is Ingram. He returned that for a touchdown. But these interceptions are not great. They're not good at all. They're actually kind of bad. This second one, overthrow. The first one, you may not blame him for. But this very last one, this is something that if it were any other mid-tier quarterback, we would be calling him absolute garbage for. And this is a quarterback that's getting paid $53.1 million a year to perform like this. But I can't say I'm surprised. I picked the Bills because history says, and especially Mike McDaniel's history says, against winning teams, this is the number. The last 12 games, he's a horrible coach. He can't coach defense. They get torched on defense, and offensively, they're shut down. He has 7 losses of 20-plus points. He's getting blown out. So, and that's 7 out of 11 losses. Like, that's a significant percentage.
Yeah, and he's lost 10 and 11 games against the Bills. Or the Dolphins have lost 10 of the last 11 games against the Bills. Eventually lost Tua for an undetermined amount of time. We'll talk about the concussion in our next topic. Both weeks, the Dolphins' offense is poor in the first half. 2 interceptions when Tua targeted receivers he's not used to throwing to, and Grant Dubois and Robbie Chosen. Achane was the only really bright spot with 96 yards, 22 on 22 carries and 1 TD. The stats: Tua 2 rushes, 17 yards, 17 of 25, 145 yards, 1 TD, 2 interceptions. Skylar Thompson came in when the game was pretty much over, really.
Yeah, it was over.
Yeah, he had 1 rush for 4 yards. He was 8 of 18 for 80 yards. Achane, 22 of 86, 7 receptions for 69 yards and 1 TD. He was the star of the game. Tyreek Hill, I mean, come on, you got to have a better offensive scheme than that. Find a way to get him open so he can do something. He's your best player. He only had, as you said, 3 receptions for 24 yards, 1 rush for 12 yards. Jalen Waddle did nothing, too. He was 1 rush for 4 yards and 4 receptions for 41. Jonnu Smith was the big pass catcher with 6 receptions for 53 yards. On the Bills, Allen, as I said, they didn't let him run it, and that was the smart move. He was and they didn't let him pass it much either. 13 and 19, 139 and 1 TD. Shakir had 1 rush for 2 yards, 5 receptions for 54. Johnson, who had the big play of the game, as I mentioned, 1 reception for 33 yards. And Cook was their guy on the ground, 11 rushes, 78 yards, 1 reception for 17 yards, and 3 TDs. Looked like Saquon Barkley last week.
Yeah, I mean, I think he looked absolutely incredible. And that first one, the blitz pickup on the left side, able to identify the man coverage using the motion and then simply dishing it off immediately to James Cook, that's called good awareness. That's called good pre-snap motion. That's identifying a defense. All things Josh Allen is generally pretty good at. So I can't say that I'm shocked that the Bills absolutely dominated, because that's expected when Tua and the Dolphins have a history of not being able to beat Josh Allen, or in this case, any winning team. So, I mean, what am I saying? I don't know what to take out of both of these teams. Yes, did Tua play poorly before the concussion, and did the offense look extremely slow? Yes. Did the defense absolutely get torched by James Cook on the ground? Yes. Did the Bills' defense, though? Did Achane also torch the Bills' defense? Yes, he did. But I also want to highlight this, because this blew my mind. There was a Mike McCarthy moment in Mike McDaniel. Ending the first half, the clock's running, and they have 3 timeouts, and they're driving, and they call their first timeout with 32 seconds left. I think that drive started well before the 2-minute warning, and then as the 2-minute warning passed, the clock kept ticking and ticking and ticking. That's bad clock management. I'm confused. Were they trying to score a touchdown and not give the Bills much time? Because I think the Bills had 2 timeouts or 1 timeout left. But I mean, if that's what your plan is, that can't be what you're thinking about, because they're going to get the ball back anyway. But besides the fact, you can run it down as far as you want, but you want to give yourself an opportunity to keep driving, keep the clock going to score a touchdown. But yet, time was coming off, and that means that if you don't get a lot of yards, you're going to need to be taking deep shots. You're going to need to be going quick out routes, and, the Bills made the mistake last time when we're playing the Chiefs with that bracket coverage. They would be playing that. So I think Mike McDaniel had a weird, bad clock management moment. You got to be out there calling timeout, leaving yourself a lot of room in case you are in bounds. Instead, you had 32 seconds and about 40 yards to work with. That's bad clock management.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a lot right now, but I do think
the Dolphins fans, was a nightmare. The game was a nightmare.
Yeah, all around, and I do think that this game, unless they go out and people are saying get Ryan Tannehill back in the building, there's a reason why Will Levis ended Ryan Tannehill's tenure with the Titans. And we're talking about Will Levis, who, by the way, may be on his way out this offseason if they draft a quarterback. But you might want to bring him in, people are saying, because there's really no other option. It's Skylar Thompson.
They say that McDaniel
Tim
says
Boyle's on the practice squad.
McDaniel says he has all the confidence in the world in Skylar Thompson. When he started as a rookie, won an elimination game for them.
Yeah,
he gave
played
the Bills
it close against Josh Allen in the playoffs.
He played him close against Josh Allen in the playoffs, so they're going to give him a shot, I'm sure.
I think, unfortunately for Dolphins fans, there is a very high likelihood that your season is essentially over because I can't see, and we're going to talk about it in the next topic, I can't see Tua coming back.
Really?
Medically, I think it might be a bad idea. But actually, let's jump into that topic right now because Tua did suffer his fourth concussion over his entire career, third since he entered the NFL on this particular hit. He was going for a first down on a 4th and 4, right into like the chest and bicep of Damar Hamlin, and his head snaps back, and you see his fingers going stiff. This is more of a close angle. You could see really not that tough of a hit. The back of his head hits the turf, but he came out with a concussion. You see his fingers get stiff. 6 minutes it only took to diagnose a concussion. I want to know, though, how concerned are you for Tua's future in the NFL and maybe even just as a human being, his personal life?
Yeah.
What do you think his future looks like?
Oh, it's scary, for sure. I mean, that's his third diagnosed concussion of his career, and he actually had one when he was in college as well. So it's 4 concussions, and he's thought about retirement last year. Before the year, his mother wanted him to retire, and McDaniel said he was in good spirits. Tua was after the game in the locker room, but he declined to speculate on what was next for Tua. He was able to walk off the field. Players were kneeling around him for several minutes. Everyone was shocked by that hit, and I'm surprised at Tua for taking that. I mean, it was obvious he was feeling a lot of frustration in the game because it had not gone well for him. He'd thrown several interceptions. He had not played well, and here was a chance to get near the end zone, right? And he got the first down. He should have slid back. He should have slid feet first, not headlong. I mean, he was obviously not thinking about what his past has been. And last year, he didn't have any concussions. He played the whole season. It's because they were focused on it. They told him, don't take those kinds of hits. Don't put yourself in harm's way. And he didn't. And he had a great season. He forgot about that in this game. And I think it was because of frustration of playing so poorly to that point in the game, being close to the goal line, to the end zone. Once he got the first down, he should have slid feet first. He should not have gone headlong into Damar Hamlin of all people, who suffered cardiac arrest in the game the year before last against the Bengals.
Well, I think that the concern is that wasn't a tough hit. Damar Hamlin was not going crown of the helmet, going this big tackle. He's not built like a Ray Lewis or a Brian Urlacher. It didn't even, Damar Hamlin was just ready to absorb the contact and just bring him down. That didn't seem like a very, very tough hit. And we've already seen this from Tua. His injury history. I looked it up, Draft Sharks, which, by the way, yeah, he did have a concussion in college. They did not have this here. But his injury history is extensive. Since 2018, he's had 13 injuries. And over the past 3 seasons, he's had 3 concussions. And he's had 4 head injuries, 3 confirmed concussions. There was the one, I believe it was against the Bills, where he got pushed and then his head hit back and you see him stumbling. They didn't rule that as a concussion, but it certainly...
But it was.
It certainly appeared that way because of the gross motor
They
stability.
called it a back injury.
Yeah.
Which it was hard for me to believe.
Yeah, no, I've never stumbled having a back injury, but 3 diagnosed concussions, and I think it's a serious problem when you think that you look at some of the people that are outside the NFL. CTE is a massive problem. They're trying to really stop the severity of concussions in the NFL because, let's be honest, it's a bad look for the NFL to have these people leave the NFL or during their time in the NFL have some serious injuries and then it affect them later on in life. Tua could be a prime example of that happening right now. The last person to retire due to health reasons was Andrew Luck. He was the last, and his offensive line was garbage. He got injury after injury after injury. He finally said, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to get killed out here, essentially.
Yeah.
And he played extremely well.
He retired right before the season, too. Yeah. They thought he played the preseason, and then before the season started, he retired.
I think when it comes to discussing retirement, it has, as Mike McDaniel said, it's really an injustice to speak about his future. But when it comes to this point, they just paid him. The extension came this offseason, $53 million. And what's crazy is the amount of money he would get. I believe it's like $124 million in guarantee, or $167 million in guarantees. But the way that it breaks down is that this is how it works. If Tua is cleared to return from his concussion but opts to retire, he'll forego $124 million in guarantees. However, if Tua is forced to medically retire, the Dolphins owe him the $124 million in guarantees.
Wow.
Yeah. And the way that the portion of that contract, when you knew he had a history of this, when literally in back-to-back weeks he had a head injury, one confirmed concussion, and then later on in that season he had even a more severe concussion, the way that contract is structured, you know what? We both said, we're glad they paid him. I would have gone $49 million per year, but that doesn't matter right now.
My recommendation was let him play this season and then see how he does and strike a deal with him next year.
Well, and that's the big thing. And also, he was doing the jiu-jitsu thing, learning how to fall.
Yeah.
My problem is, when you know you're going to be tackled, then you could figure it out. But how about the times where you initiate the contact like we just saw, or someone hits you from behind, your blind side? That's where you're going to end up getting hurt. So I think when it comes to retirement, I think if we are, answering the question of what does his future look like, I think just for the sake of him and his family, I can't speak for the guy, but just for the sake of him, I'm saying, I would step away.
Yeah, well, he's not going to. I don't think he's going to do that. McDaniel said it's more about getting a proper procedural evaluation tomorrow and taking it one day at a time. The furthest thing from my mind is what the timetable is. And I guarantee he won't play in week 3.
That's for
That's
sure.
going to be Skylar Thompson, I'm sure about. And maybe he won't play in week 4 either. But and the scrutiny on them is going to be through the roof because of what happened and the way they handled Tua 2 years ago when he had the concussion and they put him right back in the game, and then he played the next week and got another one. And they were severely criticized for that. The NFL made a change, and they started a procedure where they have a guy that is watching the game,
right? The third party guy,
and if he decides that the injury is a concussion and then the protocol is not being followed right, then he can say that the player can't go back in the game. So that was a new rule
in the stands.
Yeah, there was a new rule that came about because of Tua's situation. So the Dolphins are going to be very, very careful about this. But I do think he'll be back. I don't think it will be next week. Probably not the following week either. But beyond that, I do believe he will be back.
I think if he were to come back, and there's certain helmets that are more cushioned, I guess, or built better to help out with concussions, and supposedly Tua wears one. What I would do is keep wearing that helmet, also add a guardian cap on top of it. Because you're using the helmet that has been stated to be as effective as wearing a guardian cap, and you still have this problem. Add another layer of protection. We've seen a couple players here and there that have the guardian caps during the games. I would wear that if I'm Tua. Yes, does it look odd? Is it weird to see that? Yes. Will some people point it out? Yes, because that's how the internet works. But just for his health, because that's what athletes do. They have that high motor, they have the drive, they have the willingness to compete. They will sacrifice their body for the sake of the enjoyment of the game. A lot of people do that.
Well, put the injury list up there again for him.
13 injuries.
Right hand fracture, patella sprain, quad strain, high ankle sprain, grade 3 twice, dislocated right hip, thumb sprain, rib fracture, middle finger fracture, cranial concussion grade 1, cranial concussion grade 3, shoulder injury, cranial concussion grade 1 last night. Yeah. The guy's had a lot of injuries.
Yes.
Makes you wonder why he wants to continue playing the game. You know, most players are like this.
Yeah.
They keep coming back. They love the camaraderie with the teammates. They love the action on the field. They love the fans in the stands. They love the notoriety they get from playing the game. They love the money that they get to play. But at some point, you got to think about this is a short stint that you play football in the whole lifespan. Look at some of the players who got the CET, right? CTE. He's at risk for that. And down the road, man, that could be bad. So got to be careful, man. I
think right now the most important thing is to not worry about football, focus on getting well, getting better. And then, I think saying 3 weeks from now to have him back out there is a massive mistake. I think, maybe, because I think right now with the Dolphins, my opinion on what they might do is look at themselves and say, hey, we now have a third instance in the past 3 years of Tua banging the back of his head and him doing the stiff finger thing, which apparently is a potential loss of consciousness and brain trauma. I would say we need to figure out how let's just say, let's go with what you say, and Tua wants to keep playing.
If I want to keep playing.
Right. If I'm the Dolphins, I'm saying, hey, we got to figure out how to maybe do another round of jiu-jitsu, learning how to fall, or figuring out, because think about Tua last year, I think this is the reason why he didn't get hit. Last year, Tua got the ball out faster than anybody in the NFL.
Yeah.
He was sending it under, I think, 2.3 seconds. He had the fastest time to throw. So defenders couldn't even get close to him to bring him down.
Mm-hmm. They got to go back to that. But they got to go back to last year's game plan.
Expecting it.
They got to go back to last year's game plan for him. You got to avoid harm's way. You got to get rid of the ball quickly. It worked.
Well, Tua didn't run. That's the thing. Tua didn't run.
Yeah, he shouldn't have run last night. And when he did, he should have gone feet first on the slide.
Like you said, he was playing very poorly. The crowd was completely out of it. It was a 4th and 4. You had to make a play. I don't think diving headfirst into somebody or diving headfirst at any point is a smart idea.
Particularly for him.
Right, because it just appears to be that he is more susceptible to head injuries than a lot of other people. Because that is not one of the hits you go, oh, what a hit. It was Tua initiated the contact.
Yeah.
And he got hurt.
Yeah.
So I think that it's a very unfortunate situation. The health of Tua is of the utmost priority. Apparently, according to Mike McDaniel, he's in good spirits, which is always great. He was able to get himself off the field and not use a stretcher, which I saw a couple people wondering, like, why not just take him out in a cart? He just had a concussion, letting him walk around. He had a visible limp. I would say maybe not the best idea, but I'm not a doctor, so I don't know the effect of that. But the health of Tua is of the utmost priority. Like I said, he's in high spirits, which is a good thing. So I think right now, him getting better is what everybody, especially him, what he should be focusing on. Let's go into our next topic here. So Monday Night Football, this is an interesting game. Kirk Cousins is trying to bounce back after a pretty poor performance against the Pittsburgh Steelers, where he had 2 very bad interceptions, while Jalen Hurts is looking to capitalize and going to 2-0 and taking back the NFC East crown right now, tied with the Dallas Cowboys. And he also had a couple questionable interceptions, one to Devontae Smith, I think on the first drive of the game, where he was never open a single time. But they were able to actually move past the Packers in a 34-29 win, while the Falcons and Kirk Cousins, they went down 18-10 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, there were some, things going around about Kirk Cousins and his stance, how maybe he doesn't trust his Achilles. Well, someone asked him about that, and this was Kirk Cousins' response to saying, my Achilles is feeling okay. Take a listen.
I feel good. If I don't know what he was seeing, but whatever it wasn't my Achilles. It could have been just trying to get the laces or trying to, whatever it may be. But no, the Achilles feels good, and feel like I can move and push as I normally would.
So I'm actually curious. Do you think Kirk Cousins can bounce back and get his first win as a Falcon, or do you think Jalen Hurts and the Eagles will move to 2-0 in the 2024 season?
Well, the Eagles won an impressive game in Brazil against a good Green Bay Packers team. Saquon Barkley had 24 rushes, 109 yards, 4.5 yards per carry. Had 3 TDs, 26 touches in the game. I don't know whether he'll get that kind of a load in week 2. I mean, they have to have him for the whole season. They have Gainwell and Shipley as his backups, and I'm guessing that Barkley won't get that same kind of load in game 2. They're gonna try to manage his touches so that he's around for the whole season, and he's somebody that's had injuries in the past years, so they want to be watchful of that. Hurts last week, 278 yards, 2 TDs, but 2 interceptions. His quarterback QBR was 80.5. He had 2 sacks. He was pressured on 34% of the plays. I didn't think he played that well, actually. I think they got down there in the red zone against Green Bay, and they could have put the game away with a TD right there, and he threw that interception. That was bad. A.J. Brown, 5 receptions for 5 out of 10 targets, 119 yards and 1 TD, looked really good. Devontae Smith also looking good, 7 of 8 for 84 yards. The Eagles gave up only 138 yards to the receivers of the Green Bay Packers last week. So I think they look really good. I think they're gonna beat the Falcons pretty handily in this game. The Falcons, on the other hand, last week, Bijan Robinson, I don't know what they were thinking there. He had 18 carries, only 68 yards. It was T.J. Watt was a monster. He stuffed them on many plays and had a couple of sacks. The Falcons have 6 straight losing seasons now. I wouldn't think they're looking like they're not going to do so hot, but it was only one game, I guess. The Falcons' defense kept the Steelers out of the end zone. That was one positive. Raheem Morris said the offense was the biggest problem against the Steelers. They have to make better decisions in the passing game, and that was pretty obvious. Just a couple more comments on the Eagles. They gave up 7 yards per carry in the game against Green Bay, so that might be something that the Falcons can capitalize on because they have a very good running back in Bijan Robinson. Also, Brandon Graham playing for the Eagles. He's the only Eagle ever to start a 15th season. He's 36 years old. They say he's still a great player. He played more snaps than some of the younger players on defense last week, and he'll be out there. He'll be out there this week. Also on the Falcons, Grady Jarrett, back from his ACL last year, had 1.5 sacks against the Steelers. He looked really good. He said, I put in a lot of work. I'm ready to go. The Philly tush push, they tried it twice last week, and it failed both times. And generally they convert it 93% of the time, so I don't think it's gone away. But Kelsey's retired now, and he was the focal point of that, so maybe it's not going to be as successful as in the past, but I'm picking the Eagles.
I'm also going to pick the Eagles, but I do think I need to see more from both teams. I definitely need to see Jalen Hurts not turn the ball over as much as he has. Would you believe that in his last 18 starts, he's thrown 17 interceptions? That's Dak Prescott. That's Josh Allen, but the bad side of both those quarterbacks. So he needs to tone down, especially when he only threw 19 picks in his first 45 starts. So he needs to tone down the turnovers and act a little bit, he has to have better decision-making. And also, on the Falcons side, the Falcons cannot go 2 of 9 on third down, and on 10 drives, only 2 of them go for more than 22 yards. 11 plays in the last 4 possessions. The Falcons can't do that. Kirk Cousins needs to be better. It's as simple as that. When you go 16 of 26 of 155 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 picks, by the way, almost had 3 picks, that's not going to cut it. With the way Baker Mayfield just looked, I know it was against the Commanders, but still, if it's a sign of things to come, then I think that it could be the Buccaneers again reclaiming their NFC South title, which that would definitely be something if Baker Mayfield could replicate that. But I'm going with the Eagles here for this one reason. I no longer trust the Atlanta offensive line. Going into the season, it was rated as a top 7 offensive line. And now if you look at them, well, think about the Eagles' pass rush right now. Filled with Jordan Davis, Jalen Clark, Bryce Huff, who needs to have a better game than last game. Zach Bond coming in from the edge. Nakobe Dean had a big play, or big plays, I should say. Brandon Graham, like you mentioned. They have a lot of good pass rushers. And yes, I know Devin White is technically second string and a backup, but still, he could fly if you put him out there on a pass rushing play. But, I do not trust the Falcons' offensive line. And on top of that, I don't trust Kirk Cousins at all. He didn't throw the ball down the field. He had 6 yards per completion, which is not impressive at all. He had a 59 QB rating, 28.9 QBR. He was sacked twice, hit additional 5 times. Yes, is the Pittsburgh Steelers defensive line, and especially with TJ Watt on that right side, did he absolutely destroy the Falcons' offensive line? Yeah. But can the Eagles replicate that? Absolutely. And I do think a major part of the Falcons' scheme here will be trying to run the football. But the Eagles' rush defense is not that bad. Not that bad at all. Yes, you can look at the ESPN box score and see 21 carries for 163 yards, 7.8 yards a carry. How about this? For running backs alone, it was 3.8 yards. 3.8 yards a carry. Meanwhile, on the Philly side of things, the way that they ran the football, and Atlanta, by the way, Atlanta had a very difficult time stopping Najee Harris and even Justin Fields, who had 14 carries. 14 carries for 57 yards. Najee Harris, 20 carries for 70 yards. Could the Eagles do that again? You're saying that they might not hand the ball to Saquon Barkley that often. I'm saying, why won't they? If it works for them, stick to it. He had 3 total touchdowns in last game. Because the Atlanta defense, 4 yards a carry. 3.3 yards a carry, but that was in large part due to George Pickens having 1 carry for negative 10 yards. I think when you look at it, Justin Fields had 4.1 yards a carry, Najee Harris 3.5. It'll be a time of possession game. It'll have to be. So I am picking the Eagles here. I'm picking them to actually win pretty big. The point spread is 6.5. I'm probably going 10-point victory here for the Eagles. They moved to 2-0, and I think right now there will be some growing pains. Zach Robinson, I believe, is the OC of the Atlanta Falcons. It was a lot of dink and dunk, try to get the ball out quick, not a lot of deep shots. I like the Eagles here. I like the play.
I think maybe the Falcons' offense is worried about the Achilles heel, so to speak. No metaphor.
Pun intended
there. I think that they want to start out with him throwing the dink and dunk so he doesn't have too much pressure on him and gets re-injured, and let him play his way into shape here. And he's rusty, man. They didn't play him at all in the preseason. He looked terrible out there. He got booed. I think they think they got Penix on the sidelines there. People will be calling for him. The guy's got a 4-year, $180 million contract. Yeah. Come on, you got to give the guy. It has to give him some time to get back into it, given that you didn't let him play at all in the preseason.
Right. Well, I think that there will be some growing pains. This is a brand new offensive scheme. It's a brand new team. And I think the lack of preseason reps, I think is pretty detrimental, because if we looked at it, Kirk Cousins looked like he had a bunch of rust that he needed to shake off. So I do think week 2, week 3, we'll see a better Kirk Cousins, but it very well could be a month until we see the Kirk Cousins, or maybe even more. But it'll be a little while before we see the Kirk Cousins or a glimpse of him at least, of the Minnesota days, of what we just saw. But they don't have a Justin Jefferson. They don't have a TJ Hawkinson. Now, if you want to debate Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook versus Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts as well. I'll probably take Bijan Robinson over
Drake London.
Dalvin Cook. Drake London, yeah. They also have Darnell Mooney, who's not
they have some good receivers.
Their offensive line, though, is a problem. We saw how the Steelers just decimated the offensive line. I think that's going to be a massive
Steelers have
problem.
A good defense.
They do. They always do, though. That's the
so
big
do
thing.
the Eagles. That's why I think that's another reason why I think that the Eagles are going to win.
That's my point. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but coming up, we make our Week 2 picks, and it is redemption week. My Harvey Hot Hand, Week 2, coming up after the break.
Traveling can be a nightmare. Why? You can't watch your favorite shows abroad. You can't trust public Wi-Fi spots anymore. And when you return, roaming bills kill your vibe. Unless you get a NordVPN and Saley deal. NordVPN will increase your privacy online. And Saley, a global eSIM data app, will save you from those unexpected roaming charges. Grab the 2-year NordVPN deal with 76% off and get up to 20 gigabytes Saley eSIM data gift.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast. Your food podcast. Your mindfulness podcast. Your never thought you'd get this far podcast. And watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the comment.
Drop the episode anywhere people listen. And find out who they're cooking with. Where they're finding inner balance. And why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Remember that.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name's Nathan Harvey. It's good to have you in town on a Friday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic here, which is our Week 2 picks. Every single week throughout the NFL season, we make our picks for what team will win and cover the spread. Last week was interesting because I think I got to check the film, but you may have had actually a Harvey Hour record with your win-loss record, which is quite impressive. I, on the other hand, did not do so well. But let's jump into my Week 2 picks. So let's begin. Last night, as we covered earlier on the show, I picked the Buffalo Bills to take care of the Miami Dolphins, and they did exactly that with their 31-10 win over Miami. But let's get into the next one here. Seahawks at Patriots. It's a minus 3.5 point spread in favor of the Seattle Seahawks. I'm actually going against the favorites here. I'm actually picking the Patriots, and I don't believe this is an overreaction whatsoever to last week where the Patriots upset the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going off strictly, which is crazy to think about, of who the referee is. Because if you look at who the ref is, it's Carl Sheffers. Home teams are 80-52 with Carl Sheffers since 2016, as well as, since the Patriots are home underdogs, they also cover 65% of the time in that same span. I'm going who the ref is because, as we've seen, and a number of times over the course of the NFL season, the refs end up costing some teams the game and winning some teams the game as well. I'm going the Patriots here. And by the way, something interesting, Drake May taking 30% of the first team reps. Are we ready for the transition in year one? I'm not sure, but it's something to look at. I'll take the Patriots to win and obviously cover the plus 3.5 point spread. The next one, the Saints at the Cowboys, minus 6.5 point spread. I'll take the Cowboys here. The Cowboys at home in the last 16 games, they are probably the best team because they're 16-0. They score 35.4 points a game. Their points allowed is 17.8, and their turnover differential is 19. They are a dominant team at home. The New Orleans Saints just played the worst team in football, the Carolina Panthers, and made them look exactly like that, the worst team in football. Now they're going up against a Cowboys team who didn't play great against the Cleveland Browns. I think that the Cowboys dominate these Saints here, so I'm going with Cowboys win and cover a minus 6.5 point spread. The next one is Buccaneers at Detroit Lions. Detroit, it was actually 6.5, moved all the way to 7.5 over the course of the week. I think that's in large part due to the Buccaneers actually being down 3 significant starters, most notably All-Pro safety Antoine Winfield, as well as one of their starting offensive tackles in Luke Gedeke. So I'm going with the Lions to win and cover here because think about it. They got outplayed last week by the Los Angeles Rams and won. In fact, they ran the ball all over the Los Angeles Rams defense. I'm looking for a more balanced offense again this week for the Lions. I'll take the Lions to win and cover a minus 7.5 point spread. The next one, Colts at Packers. I'm not trusting Malik Willis. He doesn't look like an NFL quarterback. I think Anthony Richardson on his back foot sailing at 63 yards in the air, which is utterly ridiculous, and a perfect dime as well. I'll take Anthony Richardson here to keep the status quo, get a victory here, and cover a minus 3 point spread on the road. The next one, what happens when you're supposedly a good team and get embarrassed, especially on a primetime game? Normally you bounce back and bounce back big time. I'm taking the Jets here to cover a minus 3.5 point spread over the Tennessee Titans. Rodgers needs to step it up. The offense needs to step it up. And big time, the defense, which was the number one graded defense by Pro Football Focus last year, they need to step up big. And who else to do it against besides Will Levis and an offense that doesn't look that great in the Tennessee Titans? I'll take the Jets to win big here and cover a minus 3.5 point spread. The next one, 49ers at Minnesota. It looks like Christian McCaffrey might be going on the IR, which is not great. He's out for this game, but I still think the 49ers will cover a minus 5.5 point spread on the road. I think what we're looking at from the Vikings here, I think it's a mirage. It's a facade because they played the New York Giants with the worst quarterback in the NFL in Daniel Jones. I think the 49ers defense showed up big against an offense that's supposedly great in the New York Jets, as well as shutting down a guy who a lot of people, especially that I've heard personally, call Breece Hall a top 3 running back in the league, or at least could be. Well, they shut him down in week 1. So I think, you're shut down Aaron Jones. I think you'll do a decent job on Justin Jefferson. I think Brock Purdy will just cook the way we all know Brock Purdy can. I'll take the 49ers to win and cover a minus 5.5 point spread. The next one, Giants at Washington. I'm taking Washington here. I picked the Giants last week to beat the Vikings, and I was very disappointed in the New York Giants and how poorly Daniel Jones and that defensive front that's supposedly great, as I've been told several times over the course of analyzing the Giants since doing the show, I've been told the Giants defensive line is great, and they got cooked by Sam Darnold and Aaron Jones. What do you want me to do? I'm going against the Giants here. I know Daniel Jones is great against Washington, but this looks like a potentially mentally broken down Daniel Jones. He looks scared. He looks like he's seeing ghosts. In fact, he's not even seeing open receivers on the field. I'll take Jaden Daniels running around, making some great plays. I'll take him to win a narrow, probably a field goal victory over Daniel Jones at home. I'll take him to win and cover a minus 1.5 point spread. The next one, Chargers at Carolina. This point spread was 6.5 when I made my bet. It's now 4.5. Even better for me. I think J.K. Dobbins is going to steamroll all over the Carolina Panthers defense, especially with their best pass rusher and their best interior defender down in Derek Brown. I'm going to go Chargers here. Jim Harbaugh is doing great things in L.A. He's creating a culture, not only a system, but also a culture that players are buying into. This looks like a different Chargers team. J.K. Dobbins is going to be a massive part of this offense. McConkey is also going to be a massive part of this offense. I guarantee it. I'll take the Chargers to win and cover a minus 4.5 point spread on the road at Carolina. The next one, Browns at Jaguars. I was very, very impressed with the Jaguars defense in week 1, shutting down the Miami offense with Jalen Waddle, Jonnu Smith, Achane, Mostert, and Tyreek Hill. I was disappointed, or rather not that surprised, but still disappointed that Deshaun Watson is still Deshaun Watson. Last time I checked, Nick Chubb's still out, which means it'll be up to Jerome Ford to help out the production of Deshaun Watson, because that's how Watson works best, with a heavy run game. Because I'll bring it up again, he was 5-1 last year. The record looks great. The Browns had the most carries and averaged the most carries in the NFL during that 6-game tenure. Jerome Ford cannot create the same production as Nick Chubb. I'll take the Jaguars to win here. Trevor Lawrence looks decent. I think Etienne will do a great job. Offensive line held up pretty well against actually a pretty decent Dolphins pass rush. I'll take the Jaguars to win and cover and minus 3 point spread at home. The next one, I was really actually debating having the Raiders cover the point spread here, especially when it was 9.5, but I just can't do it. I think the Raiders are one of the worst teams in the NFL. Gardner Minshew showed exactly what we've been saying on the show Gardner Minshew looks like. A bottom 5 to bottom 3 quarterback in the league. He couldn't do anything last week. Very ineffective. Zamir White, who is all of a sudden going to be this underrated running back, he didn't do very well. Chargers defense did a number on him, and I think this Ravens defense needs to show up and show out against an offense that is not that great. Now, Nate Wiggins is going to be out for this game due to a recent car crash. He'll be out for this game, but I think really it won't matter that much because you don't need to have 4 cornerbacks dominate on the defensive side, because the Raiders got really 2 guys that can make a massive impact. One that has an insane impact, Devontae Adams. The other one would be Jacoby Myers. But since Minshew's their quarterback, just have a good pass rush, which they actually did a decent job at getting to Mahomes and pressuring him. I think that'll cause Minshew to make mistakes. I'll take the Ravens to win and cover a minus 8.5 point spread. The next one, I got an upset here, but I don't feel great about it because supposedly the Rams have 10 starters that are on the injury report, with a number of them actually being ruled out for this game. But I just think Matt Stafford, the way he plays, yes, the offensive line, it's banged up right now and it's not looking great. I think this will be a nice dink and dunk, and Puka Nakua's on the IR. I think this will be heavy Cooper Kupp. I trust Cooper Kupp. I think he's the top receiver in the league, and a lot of Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. The defense did a pretty good job, and I expect it to do an okay job against the Cardinals team that their best player, or at least their best prospect, in Marvin Harrison Jr., he was ineffective, even though some plays he was wide open. I think Matt Stafford, just pick the better quarterback. If you're not sure, generally pick the better quarterback, and you'll win here. I'll take the Rams with the upset. The next one, Steelers at the Broncos. I'll take the Steelers minus 2.5-point favorites on the road here. That pass rush with the Broncos' poor offensive line against the Seahawks pass rush, for me, this was easy. This was actually one of my first picks. The Chargers was actually my first pick. I'm giving a little spoilers here for the next topic about Harvey Hot Hand. This team, the Steelers at Broncos, was my second pick for my hot hand, just because I looked at the Steelers the Broncos offensive line against the Seahawks pass rush. That Broncos offensive line was graded 7th last year. Now, they looked against the Seahawks pass rush that was rated middle of the pack. I'm saying, look at what TJ Watt just did against the supposed top 10 offensive line in the Atlanta Falcons last week. He was all over the place. Fumble recovery, sack, pressure, QB hit, all over the place. Bo Nix, he threw it into triple coverage for an interception. He made some very poor plays. I think the Steelers will capitalize on Bo Nix's very poor decision-making when it comes to true live bullets being fired. I'm going with the Steelers to win on the road here and cover a minus 2.5-point spread. The next one, Bengals at Chiefs. The Bengals are giving the Chiefs more bulletin board material. Cam Taylor-Britt's calling out Xavier Worthy. You also got Jamar Chase saying they're the team to beat in the AFC. What are you doing? The Chiefs are one of, if not the only major team that seriously takes into consideration what their opponents say about them. Stop doing it. Because you did it, I got to choose the Chiefs here. Also, T. Higgins is out, and Jamar Chase, is he still battling a contract? Is he still ill? Is he still on a snap count? I'm not sure, but what I did see was Joe Burrow flexing that hand, not a good sign. And also against a Patriots team that's supposedly projected to have the number 1 overall pick, and you lose and you look bad, I'm taking the Chiefs here. Just went up against the Ravens and ran it all over the place. And by the way, speaking about running it all over the place, Isaiah Pacheco will have a great game because Ramondre Stevenson just ran it 120 yards against them. I guarantee you Pacheco's going to have the same effect. I'll take the Chiefs to win here and cover a minus 5.5-point spread in Arrowhead, or at least they used to call it Burrowhead. And look how that turned out in the AFC Championship game. Next one, Bears at Texans. Caleb Williams, that talent, his performance, yikes, that was not good. And Belichick even called it out. Belichick's not impressed with Caleb Williams, and he very well may be correct at that because it didn't look good. That defense, the Bears defense, basically won the game for Caleb Williams. It was not a good look. The Texans team, not great defensively. He gave up some big time plays. Anthony Richardson was able to complete only 9 passes and have nearly 220 yards. You don't really want that, but I think with the way that the Bears offensively look, with Caleb Williams and Keenan Allen not doing so well health-wise, I'm going to take the Texans to win big here, cover a minus 6.5-point spread. Stephon Diggs going to get in there, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Joe Mixon, offensive line's going. I've said this before, defense needs to be a little bit better, but CJ Stroud is just a completely different breed of quarterback. You take a look at what CJ Stroud is, and even in his rookie year, how he looked. Look at the rookies in this class. Look at the rookies in the previous class. Look at the rookie quarterbacks in his own class. Bryce Young doesn't look this way. CJ Stroud is a different breed of quarterback. I'll take the Texans to win and cover here. And finally, Monday Night Football, which we already covered, I'll take the Eagles here. That offensive line, the Falcons, was disappointing, and I'm trusting Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts. I'm trusting them to actually take over offensively compared to a Kirk Cousins run offense that was a lot of dink and dunk and Kirk Cousins throwing interceptions. And also, the Eagles' defense and that pass rush should be able to manipulate the Falcons' offensive line and disrupt Kirk Cousins, potentially leading him to have more interceptions. But those are my picks. I went 11-5 win-loss last week, as well as 7-9 on the point spread. But don't worry, this is my bounce back week. I'm coming back strong. Week 2, I'm going to win a lot of games. I feel it. I feel it very, very nicely. Let's have you jump in with your week 2 picks. You had. I'll need to look at the tape, but I'm calling it a historic week 1. So there you go. Here are your picks for week 2.
Okay, thanks, Nate. Thanks for calling my picks historic last week.
I think it was.
I was 14-2, 11-5 against the spread. I had some nice picks there. I picked Dallas to beat the Browns. I thought that was a pretty easy pick, actually. Most everyone had the Browns with a 2.5 point positive point spread there, and they wound up losing the game pretty badly, actually. And another win there was the Chargers over the Raiders. I thought that was actually a pretty easy one to pick. The Seahawks over the Denver Broncos. That was, and the Jets, man, same old Jets. They looked good at the beginning, and then they fell apart. And San Francisco handled them pretty easily. So I didn't think it was as tough last week. I did pick the Steelers over the Falcons. I thought that was maybe my best pick. And I think that the Steelers are intrigued with Justin Fields, with his athleticism, with his ability to run the ball. If he can just manage the game, man, I think say goodbye to Russell Wilson. I don't think he'll see the field. No pun intended there. So let's look at week 2 here. I started out pretty slow. Dolphins lost last night. I should have known better. Josh Allen owns the Dolphins, and he showed it again last night. The second game here, I'm picking the Patriots. I picked against them last week. I might have told what my mistakes were last show on not picking the Patriots. The Bengals always start off slow, and they 1-10 under Zach Taylor in the first 2 weeks of the season since he became the coach. So I should have known better. And Patriots, I think they got a nice formula there. We forgot that they still have the defense that was so good last year, and all those players back except Judon, which they traded for a third-round pick. I like Keon White. I like the secondary, which looks very good. I like the linebackers. I think their defense is going to be one of the best in the league. And last week it only gave up 10 points. Did very well. I think they can beat the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks, who won against the Broncos last week, they didn't win big. And Bo Nix, he did a very poor game. He showed he was a rookie. I think the Seahawks are not one of the stronger teams. The Patriots are playing at home. Their home opener. People are intrigued now because they won that first game. Nobody picked them to win last week. And I made the mistake. I should have picked them, but I didn't. And I think they've got a good chance to win this game. I'll be watching, and it will be a fun game to watch. I'm picking the Pats. Dallas against the Saints. I like Dallas. I think Dallas is going to be one of the best teams this year, principally because of their defense. And they brought Mike Zimmer in as their defensive coordinator. That guy's an excellent coach. He was a head coach with the Vikings for a number of years. He did reasonably well for them. And he's got the defensive mind to help the Cowboys excel with the talent that they have. And I think Micah Parsons maybe a little miffed that he hasn't gotten his contract yet, where Dak Prescott got $240 million for 4 years, and C.D. Lamb got, how much did he get? $135 million, something like that. No, $120 million for 4 years. Yeah, so he's looking for a contract. He played great last week. He was a one-man wrecking crew against the Browns. I think he'll have another big game. I just don't think the Saints have got the weapons to go up against the Cowboys, even though they do have a decent defense. So I'm picking the Cowboys to win and cover. The game of the Lions and the Buccaneers, repeat of the last year's playoff game, which was a good game for the most part. But the Buccaneers lost that game, and I'm afraid they're going to lose this game as well. But I don't think the Lions will cover. I think it's going to be a close game, particularly given the way that Baker Mayfield played last week. He had 4 TDs, and he has Mike Evans out there playing with him again. They're a formidable pair, and I think the Buccaneers' defense is probably a little better than it was last year, but the Lions look very, very good. last week. They looked very confident. They didn't have to do many gambles, which Dan Gamble likes to do, because they just moved the ball up and down the field. Their defense played well, and they won pretty handily last week. And I think they're going to do the same this week, but not handily. I think it will be a close game, and they won't cover the point spread. The Colts against the Green Bay Packers. I can't believe I'm picking the Colts to beat the Packers, but it's just one reason. It's Willis. I don't think he's really up to the task of playing quarterback in the NFL, as you mentioned. And I think that with Richardson, the way he played this last week, which surprised me, that off his back foot, that 60-yard pass, perfect pass, hit the guy right over his shoulder into his hands, right at the goal line. Perfect pass. So they're playing in Green Bay too, which it's going to be a close game. But because of that injury to Jordan Love, I think that and Malik Willis being the quarterback, who even said, "Man, this is a heavy lift for me to come up to speed with the offense this quickly." When he was traded right at the end of preseason to the Packers, I just don't think they're going to have it, and I think the Colts will find a way to win that game. Jets against the Tennessee Titans. I think the Jets will win this game. Prohibitive favorites, really. Their defense is much better than the Titans' offense. Their offense, if Aaron Rodgers could just manage the game. I mean, he didn't really play very well last week. Had an interception. They looked good on one drive there, right near the beginning of the game, and after that, they were just dominated, I thought, by San Francisco. But the Titans are not San Francisco, and I think the Jets will find a way to win. Speaking of San Francisco, I'm pretty sure they're going to handle the Vikings pretty easily. They'll be going up against Sam Darnold, who was their backup quarterback last year. He probably knows the San Francisco offense really well, and he's probably been telling the coaching staff how to play against it, but I don't think that'll be enough. San Francisco's got a great defense, got a great offense. They're not gonna miss CMC, the backup running back there. Had a career game last week, 147 yards. He looked like a world beater out there, and that's because the San Francisco's got one of the best offensive lines in the league. They can open those holes for the runners. They can protect Brock Purdy for the passing game. I don't think it's going to be too tough to beat the Vikings by San Francisco. New York against Washington. This one I thought about for a while. I mean, I was tempted to pick the Giants just because they were embarrassed so badly last week. I thought if they have any pride, they'll come out and find a way to beat Washington, particularly Daniel Jones playing well against Washington. But Jalen Daniels is the new quarterback of the Commanders. He's a two-weapon threat. He can run the ball. He can pass the ball. He had 184 yards passing last week. He did well running. He looks a little bit like Lamar Jackson type of offense they could run in Washington against the Giants. I think that will be enough. The Giants' defense, with that touted defensive line that they have this year, played terrible last week. Burns and Thibodeau, they were missing in action. Where were they? They played terrible. So I don't know. Have they really got a good defense or not? We'll have to see. But I do think Washington will find a way to win, principally because they're playing at home. The point spread is small here. I do think it will be a close game. The Chargers against the Panthers. I agree with you. Harbaugh is creating a new culture there, and with the Chargers, they won their first game. That sets a nice tone. They have a great quarterback in Herbert. They have the tools on defense, which have not performed, and with Harbaugh, I think he's going to find a way to get that talent out of those guys. And Bryce Young, man, I picked him to be the bounce quarterback in 2024 from his stats he had last year, which were horrendous. His stats were awful last week. I mean, he played awful. So they brought in a new coach that supposedly can help quarterbacks improve. Man, that guy's got his work cut out for him. Bryce Young, it looked like a bust so far. So I think that the Chargers will cover and win this game pretty handily. The Browns against the Jaguars. The Jaguars are playing their home opener, lost to the Dolphins last week. I was a little surprised by that. I know I picked the Dolphins. The Jaguars made it really tough on the Dolphins and almost won that game. The Dolphins had to pull it out at the end and didn't cover the spread. The Browns, on the other hand, as you mentioned, Chubb is still out. Deshaun Watson plays better in the run-first offense, where they can eventually go to the play action. He was 5-1 last year, principally because they had that play action and the running game running so well. They didn't have it last week against Dallas. Dallas smothered them. The Jaguars have a pretty good defense too. They're playing at home. I think they'll find a way to win the game and cover the 3-point spread. I think the Ravens against the Raiders. The Ravens are prohibitive favorites. 8.5-point spread. They'll cover it pretty easily. Gardner Minshew off to a terrible start. Devontae Adams hardly even seeing the ball. They got to find a way to get him the ball. They have good wide receivers. Well, I don't know what's going on there. They just don't have anyone, I guess, that can throw it to them. Sometimes Minshew plays well, and maybe this game, I don't think this will be the game, though, because the Ravens have a very good defense. I think they'll find a way to easily win this game. The Rams against the Cardinals. I couldn't believe the Rams were. The Cardinals are 1.5-point favorite in this game, but it's because the Rams, as you mentioned, have 10 starters out. But I still think they're going to find a way to win the game because they got enough of their skill players out there. Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford. Their running back, he showed a lot last year, and he started out the year pretty well. They played Detroit pretty well. I think Detroit is a team that could get to the NFC Championship game this year. So I think the Rams are an up-and-coming team. It's too bad they got so many starters hurt, but I think they're going to find a way to beat the Cardinals. And cover that and beat the point spread there. The Steelers against the Broncos. I like the Steelers, principally Bo Nix. You got a lot to learn as a starter in the NFL. Going up against T.J. Watt and that Steelers defense, which looks really good. Justin Fields, again, I say the Steelers are intrigued with him, his athleticism, his ability to run the ball. The Steelers in a run-first offense, playing like kind of a Ravens type of offense a couple of years ago when Lamar was a run-first quarterback. I think that they're going to get more comfortable with Justin Fields if he continues to play as well as he did last week with an over 80 QBR. They'll loosen it up a little bit, let him throw the ball a little bit more, see what he can do if they really let him loose. I don't think it will be this game. They won't need to. He'll be a game manager. Run more than he passes, and or run more times anyway, and they'll hand off a lot. And I just don't think the Broncos are going to be able to handle the Steelers. And the Steelers will be 2-0. Bengals against Kansas City. Unfortunately, Joe Burrow, more interested in looking at the mirror at his hairstyle and his hair, which he has those blonde spikes in. And I think that's a bad mistake on his part. He should be out there playing football, not have that kind of a distraction. I mean, the Bengals were terrible last week, and Kansas City looked good. So I think, and Kansas City's at home. So Kansas City on a mission to win that go the three-peat for Super Bowls. I think they'll handle the Bengals pretty easily. Sunday Night Football, the Texans against the Bears. I agree with Bill Belichick. Caleb Williams is not quite ready for the NFL right now. He played lousy. They won. They were lucky to win that game. Their defense really was the reason they won. The Texans got a lot of weapons. They had a close game against the Colts last week. They didn't cover the point spread. So I do think the Texans will win this game against the Bears. The Bears' defense looks okay, but their offense, even though it has a lot of what look like on paper skill, a lot of high-quality skill players, with a quarterback who is jumpy and making lots of mistakes out there in game one, I think the Texans find a way to win this game and cover. And then Monday night, we talked about the Falcons and the Eagles already. I like the Eagles, 6.5-point spread. They'll cover.
Let me ask you a question. How are you feeling about the 5-12 prediction on the Bears now? After seeing week one, what do you think of the 5-12 prediction?
I still like it. I mean, I came back and
You
said maybe they
revised
will
it.
win 6 or 7 games. I like them in the 5 to 7 game winning range. I don't think that you think they're going to win. You picked the Texans, right?
I did pick the Texans, correct.
So
Those are my picks. Yeah, I did pick the Texans to win. I'm just saying, maybe you should stick to your, stay true to your convictions. 5 and 12, maybe.
yeah.
We'll see, though. It is now time for everybody's favorite segment of the show during the NFL season, my Harvey Hot Hand, brought to you by Dr. Squatch. Use the link down below or go to drsquatch.com/Nathan Harvey to get $10 off orders of $20 or more for new customers. Thank you for supporting the channel and enjoy some of the best all-natural soap products on the face of this earth. All right, let's get into my Harvey Hot Hand. Last week it was rough. I'll admit it. Someone even called me out. It wasn't so hot. You're damn right it wasn't. This was my worst week in a very, very long time. I had 4 weeks last year where I went 1-4. I also had 4 weeks where I went 4-1 and had 1 week where I went 5-0. I think this could be one of those weeks where I go 4-1 or 5-0. This is going to be a very, very fun segment. Let me just wind this up here. Here we go. Let's jump into week 2's edition of my Harvey Hot Hand with the first pick.
Jets at Titans.
So this one, I think it's time for Aaron Rodgers to look like Aaron Rodgers. He looked completely lost. He only threw it to the left side of the field. There's a whole other side of the field, Aaron, that you could throw it to. Maybe try doing that. I think against a defense of the Titans that looked pretty good, albeit it was against Caleb Williams, who didn't look all that great. I think Breece Hall will be better. I think Allen Lazard is already in midseason form, so he's going to be pretty bad. But you have Garrett Wilson that you could dink and dunk it to if you need it. You also have Mike Williams, who we may not see for a very long time. Tyler Conklin's not that bad, and your defense should be much better against Will Levis, who barely looks like an NFL quarterback. I'll take the Jets to win, Jets to cover the 3.5 point spread. They win 24-14.
Steelers at Broncos.
This one I love, absolutely love, because what we saw in week 1 is the offensive line can't hold up, and Bo Nix is already seeing ghosts. He threw into triple coverage on that last interception. Did he make some good plays here and there? Yes, he did. But overall, I think the Steeler defense showed something against the Falcons offensive line that was graded in, I think, even the top 5 by Pro Football Focus to enter this season. TJ Watt, when healthy, is probably one of, if not the best defenders in the NFL. He was incredibly dominant against the Falcons, made Kirk Cousins feel extremely pressured, leads into several mistakes, and got the game-ending sack. I think we could see something similar where Bo Nix does get phased by just the sheer pressure of having TJ Watt running straight for you. I think Justin Fields will do what he just did last week, dink and dunk, play it safe, run the football, which the Seahawks did pretty effectively. I'll take the Steelers to win 20-16 and cover a -2.5 point spread. The next one.
Chargers at Panthers.
This one, I just think the Panthers are garbage. They are terrible. Bryce Young does not look like an NFL quarterback. You might want to consider drafting another one. The offense is abysmal. You just lost your best pass rusher in Derek Brown. The Panthers are falling apart. Dave Canales was supposed to be the answer for Bryce Young. It doesn't seem like there's any solution in the book for you to create to make Bryce Young a competent quarterback. It is year 2, but his first pass was an interception. He just looked terrible against a Saints team that was really underwhelming last season. But what Jim Harbaugh is doing, he's created a culture. He's creating something special in Los Angeles. He has done this everywhere he goes. He always finds success. He always is a winner. I think what he's doing with the defense showed up big, making some big-time plays, albeit against Gardner Minshew. But against the Panthers, it should be very, very similar. I think Justin Herbert playing it safe, hand the ball to J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, let them work. I'm saying, hey, Chargers cover a -4.5 point spread and win 27-14. Maybe the 14 is too high for Carolina. Let's go with another one.
Colts at Packers.
This one, Malik Willis is just not a starting quarterback in the NFL. You might want to consider, getting a legitimate backup quarterback, or hell, even at this point, a starting quarterback. They listed Jordan Love as questionable. I'm going with, what are you doing? There is no shot Jordan Love plays in week 2. So I'm saying if you're going up against Malik Willis and what we saw already from the Colts going toe-to-toe with C.J. Stroud and the amount of talent they have, you look at the talent comparison between the Colts and the Texans, and you would say that the Texans are far superior to the Colts, and it was a 2-point victory for the Texans. I'm saying against a Packers team, yes, while they did make some good plays against the Eagles, I think with Malik Willis at quarterback, it's going to be ugly. He's trying to speed learn a playbook. He's trying to speed learn an offense. That's not going to work out very well. Anthony Richardson is probably a one-of-a-kind specimen. back foot, leaning backwards, falling back, essentially throwing it 63 yards in the air. It's incredible. I'll take the Colts to cover -3 points, but on the road, and win 23-10. And the final pick, this might be the one that gets me, but
Bengals at Chiefs.
I'm going with the maybe soon to be three-peat champion Kansas City Chiefs. Joe Burrow does not look good. I know a lot of people saying, why don't we criticize Joe Burrow the same way we do Lamar Jackson? We did earlier this week, and I'll do it again. He does not look that great. He really doesn't. Jamar Chase was on a snap count. It didn't look pretty. T. Higgins out. Offensive line, not that great. Defense, the Patriots just ran through the Bengals at ease, and I think we could see a similar situation right now. I'll also add, can the Bengals stop giving the Chiefs bulletin board material? Jamar Chase saying that the Bengals are the team to beat in the AFC. And they also have Cam Taylor-Britt calling out Xavier Worthy by saying, and this is a direct quote, speed. He could run straight. He can't do too much else. So that's about it. If you put hands on him, you're going to stop his speed. So basically, get your hands on him. Well, how was he used? There was a blown coverage, actually. When Marlon Humphrey tried to jam him at the line, he just blew right by him and ended up scoring a 35-yard touchdown. And they opened up Xavier Worthy's NFL debut with a nice little end-around jet sweep that there were 9 blockers ahead. So guess what? You didn't touch him. You didn't put hands on him. You're not going to be able to stop him if you do that because the guy runs a 4.21? He flies across the field. Fully expect Xavier Worthy to score 1 or 2 touchdowns in this game just because the Bengals love giving the Chiefs bulletin board material. And on top of that, Joe Burrow just does not look great. He does not play well in September. He is. I think they have 1 win since Joe Burrow got there. Zach Taylor has 1 win in the first 2 weeks. It's not pretty. I'll take the Chiefs to win and cover a -5.5 point spread. They win 30-20. I'm curious though. What do you think of my my week 2 Harvey Hot Hand picks? Are you more confident than you are in my week 1 or less? The reaction doesn't.
I thought your picks were okay last week. You just ran into some unexpected difficulty there.
That's true.
And the week 2 looks good to me. The one game that I would question, where I thought there were easier picks to have, is the Colts Green Bay game. I think that could be.
You're trusting Malik Willis?
Well, I just think Green Bay at home. And the Colts,
Malik Willis is their quarterback.
I know, but they have a decent running game. I mean,
Joe Mixon ran all over the field, and it was a 2-point victory.
Yeah, so
But they have
I'm
CJ
talking
Stroud.
Green Bay has a decent running game.
I know, but what I'm saying is that the Colts just played the Texans. Joe Mixon just ran all over the field.
Malik Willis could run the ball too. I mean, they may give up on the pass and just run and let the quarterback run too.
I think
San Francisco over the Vikings could have been an easier pick. Dallas
Too
over
high.
the Saints, I think, could have been an easier pick. So
It's a high point spread.
And I did pick the Colts as well, so we'll see what happens. But I think that's a tougher pick.
It's a high point spread. I like, for instance, at the opening of the week when the point spread was 9.5 for the Raiders, and we just saw what the Chiefs pass rush did to the Ravens offensive line, which looks abysmal. I thought Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins plus 9.5, I'll take it. But I was like, yeah, but Gardner Minshew and that offense can't score. Yeah. So if Mahomes could just dink and dunk and they could run it right through just like the Chargers did. So I was thinking about picking that, but 6.5 maybe. I was thinking about Bucks plus 7, and then all of a sudden some of the Bucks players start dropping like flies. But yeah, Harvey Hot Hand brought to you by Dr. Squatch, drsquatch.com/Nathan Harvey. $10 off orders of $20 or more for first-time customers. Thank you for helping out the show, supporting the show. Also, you can use the link in the description. It's the first link there. But yeah, those are my Harvey Hot Hand picks. Just to recap them. Hopefully I have them up immediately. If not, we can just go back to it. Let's go back to it. So we got the Bengals, Chiefs over Bengals, Jets over Titans, Steelers over Broncos, Chargers over Panthers, and Colts over Packers. That's my Harvey Hot Hand. But for this episode of the Harvey Hour, we thank you for the constant support as always. My name's Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We're the hosts of the Harvey Hour. Catch us Tuesday to recap Sunday football, obviously, and Monday Night Football, everything that goes around in the realm of the NFL. Also, the NBA season is picking up in about a month and a couple weeks from now. We'll be talking about that, of course. But for this episode of the Harvey Hour, like I said, my name's Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We'll see you Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube.
Night, Grandpa.
Traveling can be a nightmare. Why? You can't watch your favorite shows abroad. You can't trust public Wi-Fi spots anymore. And when you return, roaming bills kill your vibe. Unless you get a NordVPN and Saley deal. NordVPN will increase your privacy online. And Saley, a global eSIM data app, will save you from those unexpected roaming charges. Grab the 2-year NordVPN deal with 76% off and get up to 20 gigabytes Saley eSIM data gift.